What is up, everybody? Welcome back to State of the Steelers. Welcome to the Huddle. I'm your host, Daniel J. I hope everybody's having a fantastic bye week so far. This is something new that I've been thinking about doing. Thought about doing a couple of lives throughout the week versus just daily segments. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section uh, when it comes to if you guys prefer me to do a little bit more lives, or would you rather have the segments go out daily? I'm gonna send out the show out to a couple people real quick while there's nobody in here. Hey, Daredevil, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. I'm gonna send this out. I should have done this earlier. My bad, guys. My bad. Share. There it is. So it's the bye week. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-6 and in some pretty crappy company, if you ask me. I mean, you look at the rest of the league right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in. Let's talk about it. They're with the Lions, who are 1-6, the Texans, who are 1-5-1, the Raiders, who are 2-5, Panthers, Steelers, and Jags are all 2-6. Now, those are all games and what do you call it? Those are all teams that a lot of those you expect to see in the bottom barrel of the league. There, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not one. Especially here recently with Ben Roethlisberger being the quarterback for such a long time, and really helping this team propel itself. It's just being 2-6 right now is horrible, but the worst. They just kind of went through the worst, and the worst is over, so to speak. You look at the last four games, the Bills, the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Dolphins. Those were games that the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't really, in my opinion, favored to win by anybody. Nobody really predicted them except probably myself and other homers with thick black and gold goggles. Um, but outside of us, there was nobody that was picking the Pittsburgh Steelers to win any of those games. And so, they came out 1-3 out of those. And, if you go back to before the season started and you look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers, you looked at the schedule, it was always known that the second half of the schedule was going to be a little bit lighter than the first half. And, outside of Miami, I think Miami may have surprised some people as far as how good they are. I think that everybody thought that they were going to be a solid team, but they got some weapons there on the offense and the receiving core. And so, you look at these last four games, you look at the remaining schedule. The Steelers are at home for the next two games. It's the only time they have back-to-back home games, and it's against the New Orleans Saints, and it's against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that this team those are two winnable games. Now, I know everybody's probably thinking, like, what do you mean by the Cincinnati Bengals being winnable right now, the way the Steelers offense is playing? I get it, but defensively, the Steelers played really poor against the Eagles. They kind of put themselves out of that game and out of contention because of that, and forced the team to go into a pass-happy mode and try to catch up. But, you look at the defense that the Steelers were utilizing. There was some players that that weren't on the field for the defense. And let's talk about those players real quick. You have the biggest one who's coming back is going to be TJ Watt. That's a the reigning defensive player of the year. Him alone is going to make this defense so much, much better. But TJ Watt's coming back, and alongside with him from the IR coming back is going to be DeMonte Casey. DeMonte Casey played a lot of that three safety look in training camp and preseason. Right now, everybody gets really upset because Robert Spillane is out there in coverage on third downs. If DeMonte Casey didn't injure his wrist, I think that would be DeMonte Casey out in the backfield and Terrell Edmonds up in the box, replacing Robert Spillane. And I think that's probably what's going to be the plan here once DeMonte Casey is able to, get back on the moving train, so to speak, get back into the mix of things and get on the field. And so DeMonte Casey's coming back. That's going to open up our defense to play a little bit more exotically as well. You're looking at Will Jackson, third, a cornerback that the Pittsburgh Steelers just acquired from the Washington Redskins. He's going to be out there. Larry Ogunjobi wasn't playing either, and so he's going to be coming back. I mean, there are key players and key groups there that were missing out of the Eagles game that really made that game laughable. And so when you look at those two things there, and you look at the fact that they're coming back, I think the Steelers can then maybe potentially not become so pass happy and have to catch up. And so maybe lean a little bit more on the run, which is up in the air, I know. But yeah, it's one of those things where, in my opinion, that it could get better defensively. Offensively, I mean, we all knew there was going to be some growing pains going into this season. You had a new quarterback in here for the first time with the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it was going to be Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. You had an offensive line that was put together barely this year for the most part, especially in the interior with the center and the right guard. You had, we look at it right now. I mean, who's the captains? Who are the leaders of the offense? They're all a bunch of 1 and 2 year players. And so there's no experience there within the organization for a long period of time to have that leadership. And so there's going to be some growing pains and stuff like that. And so, I think that the offense may have regressed a little bit. I think Kenny Pickett may have regressed a little bit, but no better time for a bye week, not just to prepare and rest physically, but also mentally, and let these guys get a mental break, get a mental check, and then come back at it. I'll answer a couple of these questions real quick. JJ52 asks, who should the Steelers draft with the first 3 picks in the draft next year? I think you should get an O-line, probably a tackle. If you're up there in the top 10, if the Steelers end up in the same trajectory in the top 10, then you might go with the probably a tackle. I'm thinking you go with the tackle, maybe a CB1. I'm not sure. Will Jackson's kind of old. He's 30 years old, so he's not the long-term answer there for cornerback. So you might go corner, you might go left tackle. I would say 3. I would go with left tackle, probably a middle linebacker. I don't think Devin Bush is going to be here for a long period of time. I also I don't think that Miles Jack is the he's just one piece of that puzzle. I think we need another middle linebacker, and so I would probably go middle linebacker, and probably end up with either a center or a guard or a guy that can play both. That's what I'm thinking. Now, there is the question though: if the Steelers are in the top 10, I don't even know if I should ask it, but I'll ask you guys in the live chat. If the Steelers are in the top 10, we got to keep some things involved. Put some context behind it. So if the Steelers end up going in the top 10, it's not because of this defense. This defense is getting TJ Watt back. This defense got Will Jackson. This defense is getting DeMonte Casey back. Everybody that I mentioned, Larry O's coming back. They're playing significantly better. So if the Steelers end up struggling and end up in a top 5 pick, top 4-3 pick, that means the offense continued to fall off a cliff. Not that it's, going in that direction, that it continues to get worse. At that point, if you're that up high, would you consider getting a quarterback? I don't know. Let me know in the live chat. I don't think the Steelers are going to go that far. I think Kenny Pickett's going to turn it around this week. I think he's got a bye week and mentally he's going to be able to rest and prepare himself. Plus, I think that Chase Claypool getting dealt away may have been an addition by subtraction kind of thing. And I'll explain that to you here like this. Kenny Pickett, after this last game, said that there wasn't anybody, that they need to study more together. And, a lot of people took that in a couple of different ways. The way I see it is Kenny Pickett has been known to be that guy that's like really into the playbook, knows the playbook back and forth. And so, I think he's asking the rest of the team to probably put in the extra time that he does into the playbook so that they're all on the same page. Now you hear Arthur Maulet, who is, talking about, yelling and screaming the last time, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a pretty bad loss. saying that they were laughing on the sidelines and this, that, and a third. And then you hear Kenny Pickett saying this, makes you wonder, Chase Claypool gets dealt away. Was it him laughing? Is it him not really in the playbook? Maybe. If that ends up being the case, then this could be an addition by subtraction. And the Steelers got some pretty good um, draft capital out of it. So let's see. JJ52 says the Steelers should draft Bobby Boucher, Forrest Gump, and Cheeseburger Eddie. Love it. In the Green TV says O-line and all three. What is up, Big Blue? Daniel Rocha in the house. That's a good idea, too. Let's see. Too many young players on offense, no leaders. Yeah, I agree. That is true. There's just so many young players, and players that aren't young, for instance, you have, they're still fairly young. They're under 26 years old, is Mason Cole and James Daniels. But this is their first year on the team. So they're not really in the position of being a leader, so to speak. And so lean on Jalen Warren at RB for the rest of the year. Let him shine. I'm not opposed to that, too. I think Najee Harris is a guy, though, that can get back to some sort of form that he had last year. It's kind of hard to believe that he would regress when the offensive line is somewhat better. I'm not saying they're the best or they're leagues above what they were last year, but when you compare, Kendrick Green to Mason Cole, Ray Turner to James Daniels, things of that nature, you start looking at it, Leglue to Dotson, you figure that at a certain point that this offensive line, although maybe not the best, is better than last year, and Najee Harris is regressing still. And so with that being said, I think that Najee Harris's approach to his second year was probably the wrong one. Now you look at James Conner, you look at Le'Veon Bell, they both went from, going into their second year losing weight. They lost weight. They increased their burst. They increased their explosiveness. And Najee Harris went the other direction. He gained weight. He put weight back on. He, maybe overtrained himself, and that may have been a reason why he ended up having the Liz Frank injury. However, you look at those things there. I think that if Najee Harris can heal up whatever's going on with his foot and drop a little bit of weight, get that explosiveness back, I think that he might be in a, he could be coming back to form, so to speak, and be a dynamic piece to this offense. At least a guy that can, be that power and bruiser guy. He needs to stop doing that shaking stuff and that, thinking that he's a smaller guy. That's why I like Jalen Warren a lot, is because he's a little guy, but he has that big dude mentality and physicality to him. He'll run over a guy, run into him, and he falls forward all the time. So, I really like what he's doing. I think that he deserves a little bit more carries, and I think he's going to get them. Let's see. Todd Williams says Matt Canada and that O-line is horrible. Horrible. I agree. The O-line has some work. It showed the whole offense just kind of regressed, and it's just so frustrating to see because, the offensive line was, horrible in preseason, and then the start of the regular season, it appeared that they turned a corner, and now it's kind of regressing back. And, you got to ask yourself, is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback? Is it the coordinator? When it comes to pressure and it comes to sacks, it's a two-unit job. That's on the offensive line, but it's also on the quarterback that's calling his protections and things of that nature. So pressure's not just on the offensive line. You have a new guy back there, a guy that it's his first year in the league. So he's going to get it wrong a couple of times when defenses are going to show him one look, and it's going to be a different look because he doesn't have that experience in the league yet. And so with that being said, in my opinion, the Steelers just need to, and I'm sorry if you guys hear that in the background. My dog, he's barking out there. But I just think that the Pittsburgh Steelers just need to, when it comes to the running game, and I'm sorry, I've lost where I was at, but, the running game is just, Najee Harris is going to get back to where he needs to be, in my opinion. It's just going to take some time. I think in the meantime, I think they found a guy in Jalen Warren. I really do. His pass blocking is amazing. The way he can, he's beyond his years, and I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to utilize him more. Let's see. But yeah, and as far as Matt Canada go, guys, I'm not a Matt Canada apologist or anything like that. I'm for firing the guy at the end of the season. I'm not for in the middle of the season firing. I think that's somewhat desperate. And that goes for any coordinator, whether it was Matt Canada or Terrell Austin. I think that if the team is firing somebody in the middle or coordinator in the middle of the season, it's not a good look. I mean, let's look at who else is doing that. The Lions did that. I don't think they're the organization that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be following in. Get the Colts did that. Under Frank Wright, they've had a different quarterback every single year starting for them, and so. I don't think that's the model of success that you're going to find with so much inconsistency or consistent turnover. And so the Steelers aren't the team that are going to act out of they're not going to act out of desperation or panic in those certain moments. And so I don't foresee them moving out of this coordinator until the end of the year. I mean, they're a team that, for one, doesn't really fire coordinators throughout their contract. They kind of let them just kind of expire. So I think that might probably be the same thing here. But if you go and look back, and we can go back in time, we can go back to 2013, the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers were 2-6. They were coming off of a 8-8 year where they didn't make the playoffs, so they were 2-6 the following year, and it was under second year Todd Haley. Todd Haley ended up turning the ship around. Everybody was complaining and wanting to can him too. Oh, man, those bubble screens. Oh, man, this dink and dunk, throwing short doesn't do it. We need to attack, throw the ball down the field, this, that, and the third. And right now, I think a lot of people would appreciate having Todd Haley back, given they knew what he was able to put out there on the field after that fact. So I'm in the boat of patience when it comes to certain things. And I think that when you're looking at the coordinator and you're looking at this team and how young they are, and you're looking at the quarterback being a rookie, you're looking at the offensive line being inexperienced, you're looking at a receiver and George Pickens, that he's a rookie, Pat Freiermuth, the tight end, he's a second-year guy. There's going to be some growing pains. And the only thing that you do by switching out your coordinators and panicking and making those type of moves is prolonging the growing pain. Like, for instance, I think if the Pittsburgh Steelers would have started Kenny Pickett come week 1, some of these growing pains probably we would have gone through by now. But since they started 2 different quarterbacks midway after the first quarter, you had 4 games with Mitch Trubisky, then 4 more with Kenny Pickett. There was going to be some readjusting and relearning. It had to have happened. And so, my opinion, I think the Steelers maybe should have started Kenny Pickett right off the bat so that these growing pains could have been a little bit more alleviated. But good comment. I do think that Matt Canada has his faults. I do not want to see Najee Harris running on the outside anymore. Like a pitch or a sweep, those things just are not his game. Even if that's what he thinks his game is, it's not. He's too dang slow. And so, that's and not to mention they put Gunnar Olszewski to try to block a defensive end on those sweeps and pitch plays. That's horrible. It's horrible design. I get it. Those plays suck and they need to be out of there. But to change a coordinator mid-season is probably, in my opinion, not the best also for his development. But thank you for the comment. Good comment. Let's see. Steely says, I think that beating that Najee has taken the last 2 years possibly be taking a toll on Najee mentally and possibly physically. It's possible, but one thing that was that has come out is that Najee's always been the kind of guy that was the first person on the practice field, last person off. I think he may have overtrained himself into the point where he ended up causing himself Liz Frank sprain. And that's not a conspiracy. It happened. The Liz Frank sprain did. And, everybody talked about how swole he came in looking at camp, that he looked like a superhero and this, that, and a third. It's possible that it's not just the beating that he took. It could be also the fact that, he hurt himself. And not only that, this offensive line is new. It's young, and based on the beating that he took last year, he might have some confidence issues with them. I don't blame him. I mean, you can't, you don't fault the quarterback for having some, confidence issues with their offensive line when they're getting beat up all day because they can't pass protect. I don't understand why, same thing could happen to a running back. I just think that, Jalen Warren gives them a different, he's just a different guy. It gives them a different change of pace. He's a downhill, one cut type of guy. And I think that's what works with this offensive line that they have. Let's see. Answer this question for me, Daniel. Just humor me. How is the offense scheme the same almost as Pitt? Why is Kenny struggling so bad? Why is his arm so terrible down the field? Can't see him as the guy. So let's kind of talk about this. So the scheme, almost the same as Pitt. I'm really not a college guy, so I can't say it's how close it is or not. I understand that it is an RPO, and they put the guy, your quarterback, in motion. So in my opinion, it is pretty similar. Why is Kenny struggling so bad? Probably because he's a rookie quarterback and he's seeing some things that he's never seen before. You look at some of the defenses that he played against in the ACC. From my understanding, that's probably not the most talented defenses, I don't think, come out of that conference. And so he's not seeing some of these things, and he can, he's going to get confused the first time he sees a couple of different looks. And he's only played 4 games, so I'm not opposed to I'm not opposed to saying, hey, if a player's not playing well, we need to move on from them. Like, I was never a fan of a couple of players. Like Jarvis Jones was one of them. I was like, please don't draft him. I saw him being a slow linebacker, and there was at no point in his career where I enjoyed watching him play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm just not there yet with Kenny Pickett. I get what you're saying when he goes, why is his arm so terrible down the field? I don't know if his arm is terrible down the field-ish. I think he's only taken a couple of shots. Most of the shots that he's taken have been back shoulder passes and over the middle. And I understand what you're saying. I want to see Kenny Pickett throw the ball down the field as well. Like, one thing that I haven't seen him do yet is lead a receiver down the field, and I get it. That's something that he needs to do. I love the back shoulder pass. I love the passes over the middle to Pat Freiermuth. Those are passes that aren't affected as much by the wind. But at the same token, I want to see him do it. I've been hyping for it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it's not something that I want, that worries or concerns me. His arm strength coming out has been a concern, and I've seen receivers open down the field, but at the same token, he's a rookie quarterback, and I don't know what the coaches and coordinators are telling him. They might be telling him, hey man, protect the ball here. We have a defense that's strong enough. If you don't turn it over, we're winning this game. And that might be to maybe not handcuffing him, but a mental handcuff to himself. And so those things are possible. I just think that we have to execute some patience. Let's see what he has. He's a rookie quarterback. It's 4 games in. I've seen a lot of flashes. There's stuff that I've yet to see. And so it's kind of like once he does it and it looks like crap, I'll be the first one to point it out, man. I promise you that. If I see it consistently looking like crap, if I see the throws consistently not accurate or butterflying up. But I do have a concern when every time he does try to drive the ball, sometimes it floats on him. It did in Miami. I don't know if that was a 2-glove thing with the rain. It was a little bit rainy there, which is a concern for me too. But those questions they can only be answered in time. And so right now, to tell whether or not he's the guy is a little premature. I will say, and I'm not opposed to it, if he does struggle throughout the rest of the year and he's not the guy, obviously it doesn't look like it, he's in those opportunities where he's throwing the ball down the field and it's not happening. I'm not opposed to getting a quarterback in the top 3 or 4, if you're in the top 3 or 4 of the draft. Not opposed to it at all. But right now it's a little premature to say he's not the guy, just as much as it's a little premature to say that he is. But thank you for the question. Let's see. Question: what Steeler do you wish could have had a longer career with us? Um, Javon Hargrave. I really like Javon Hargrave. I wish he would have stayed a Steeler. Um, I wish I hope he can somehow maybe come back. That is a guy that there's different eras. Most recently would probably be Javon Hargrave. Um, Growing up, I was pretty disappointed when Chad Brown left. Um, Troy was a guy also that was one of my favorite players. In fact, I had two dogs. One was named Roth, which was short for Roethlisberger, and the other one was named Malu, which was short for Malu. And she was a little Roddy. Loved her to death. That was one of my favorite players. Those are some of the players that I wish could have stayed a little bit longer with us. Let me see. Kenny doesn't have growing pains. His weakness are just showing where he lacking and why he. Hold on, Kenny doesn't have growing pains. His weaknesses are just showing where he lacking and why he didn't start. Also furthers why he should have waited to get in, and the fans have fried him developing. Everybody has growing pains, man. You can't say that he doesn't have growing pains, just weaknesses. I mean, growing pains are weaknesses, but the difference is that those are weaknesses that you can develop and become, and make them no longer weaknesses. But you have to first have a weakness before you can develop. Everybody has to learn how to walk before they can run and crawl before they walk. And so that part of it, I don't agree with. As far as why he didn't start to begin with, I mean, that could have been a lot of things. Philosophy probably leading into it. Mike Tomlin isn't a guy um, who wanted to start a rookie quarterback. It's obvious. He said it out there, and with the clerical error and stuff like that, I think he wanted to keep Kenny Pickett on the bench. Now, did the fans have anything to do with it? I don't think so. Maybe Art Rooney did. Maybe he said, "Hey, we need to see what we have in this young man." So, let's see. I missed one. Here's here. Let's see. Nathan Heiss goes from In Hindsight. Make sure you follow and subscribe to him. He's 1/3 of the Unofficial Steelers podcast. He goes, I was looking back at Najee from last year to this year on terms of how he ran. It's like night and day. I agree. He's not the same. Pittsburgh Owen says, I wanted Ritter in the draft. He's going to be a good NFL quarterback. How's it doing, Owen? And make sure you guys go and subscribe to Pittsburgh Owen. He's got a few channels. If you like Pittsburgh Steelers, there's Pittsburgh Owen. He has Steel Kingdom, Penguins Kingdom. There's a few of them there. Go check them out. Make sure you subscribe. Let's see. Pickens has got to be targeted early and often. After the bye, he's our number one receiver. And which quarterback would you take if it comes to that in the draft? I haven't really put a lot of stock into the draft that's upcoming. I know that a lot of folks are going for CJ Stroud, but the problem with CJ Stroud, in my opinion, is that Ohio thing. Like I said, I'm not really a college guy, but I don't really know very many Ohio quarterbacks that have come out and been successful in the NFL. Bryce Young was a guy. Is he coming out this year? I think he was a guy that I was intrigued by because of his mobility and what he brought. Ritter, I think he's gonna, as far as him going to the Falcons, he's gonna be in an all right position. I think he was doing okay. I'll be honest with you guys. In the draft, Pickett was like my man. I wasn't too high on Pickett. I'll be honest with you guys. I wasn't very high. I wasn't high on this quarterback class at all. And what I had said was, like, I knew that the Steelers were going into a transition year. General manager, they were going into, there was going to be a new one after this year, and that I felt that this could be a mulligan year for the draft because this is the last year under Kevin Colbert. Last draft, he's not even going to be there for the season to see the players that he drafted progress and how they play. That if the Steelers got it wrong at the quarterback position, there wouldn't be so much heat on the general manager because he wouldn't be there anymore, and that they could have that mulligan and say, hey, you know what? We tried it. We had our pick, and well, we got another one now. And so I'm not opposed to that. If the Steelers do that, then it's because it's obvious that what they see in practice and in game and stadium is not what they're looking for. Kenny Pickett had some question marks about his arm strength coming in, and he hasn't answered him yet. But he's got another opportunity and next Sunday against the Saints, and hopefully he does. At the end of the day, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I'm going to root for my team, and I'm going to be rooting for Kenny Pickett while he's out there. And if he ends up getting benched or pulled or whatever, and somebody else goes in for him, I'm going to be rooting for that player too. And so, I want the best for the team. I'm a fan of the Steelers. They're a fan of the team, and I want what's best for them. And in my opinion, when I look at the quarterback that I would want from the QB of my dreams, so to speak, it's a guy that can move, but also can that's going to force a defense to play the entire field. A Josh Allen type, maybe perhaps, someone big, strong, that's not afraid to run and can throw the ball significantly down the field. That's what I would want. And I'll be honest with you. I don't see that in Kenny Pickett. What he looks like to me is, a guy that, like, an anticipatory thrower. I don't want to say Duck, because Duck wasn't that good, but like Duck with a better arm, if that makes any sense. That's kind of what he reminds me of at this point. And he moves around well. He throws the ball. The only thing is Duck threw it out there. He threw it down the field. He didn't reach it all the time, but he tried to. But good questions and good comment there. Georgia Tesson said he liked Ritter too. Last one was Mike Tomczak. Yeah. And Mike Tomczak himself was majority was, that I remember him he was a backup. So he was a backup for the Steelers. So yeah, that was the last Ohio State quarterback. Let's see. George says O-line needs to clean up the stupid penalties. Yeah, I agree. There's so many penalties, man. I don't understand it. Like, not even just with the old line. You're looking at false starts. You're looking at illegal shifts. You're looking at delay of games. It's just across the board. It's so bad. And when it comes to the defense, I'll say this, guys. I noticed this when I was in Pittsburgh for the Steelers versus Buccaneers game. The defense, like, there are times where the Steelers will get a penalty because they're having somebody coming off on the field. When the defense is on the field, they are swapping players out back and forth like crazy. Like, I'm surprised they don't get any more of those too many men on the field or offside penalties because of it. And it's like the other team, they're in their huddle, they got their personnel, and while they're lining up, it's like the Steelers are like, all right, let's change our mind. We're going to go with a different personnel in, and they just go back and forth. And it's a little bit nerve-wracking because it's like sometimes they don't even know, like, they're doing the hands up thing, like, all right, what am I supposed to do on this play? And that gets a little bit frustrating. I've noticed that. But yeah, the team on its own needs to clean up the penalties. This is one of the most undisciplined Mike Tomlin teams that I have ever seen. Just being honest, it's super undisciplined. Pittsburgh Golan said Sam Hartman is a good quarterback. Wake Forest is good. Bryce Young is good. Will Levi's, I think it is decent. Got you. I know I've heard of Sam Hartman and Bryce Young. Like I said, Bryce Young was a guy that I also was thinking about potentially last year before the Steelers drafted a quarterback. I thought to myself, maybe the Steelers would go defense and Kyle Hamilton and Jordan Davis move up or something, and maybe next year go with a quarterback. But the same thing with Bryce Young and Alabama quarterbacks. It's kind of the same thing with Ohio State. So we'll see. Brian White goes, I like to see QB hooker from Tennessee or Oklahoma State, Spencer Sadler. I'm not familiar with either one. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really big into college guys. I'll be honest. I get into it probably after the season, once it's like ready for the draft and this draft prospect checking. And if they're not going into the draft, I probably don't look too much into it. But I did look a lot at Kenny Pickett. I did look a lot of Malik Willis and Desmond Ritter. And like I said, I was not high on this offense, on this quarterback draft coming in. But Kenny Pickett, he did flash a little bit. He did flash, when it comes to those back shoulder passes and over the middle stuff. I'm not giving up on him, not yet. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna give him this entire season. If the Steelers end up in the top three, then that means he did significantly poor. Then there's a discussion to be had there. But if the Steelers go 5-4, in the next 9 games, don't miss the playoffs, somewhere around 10-8 in the draft, you know, wins more games than they lose in this last stretch. That's an uptick. That's going up. That's moving in the right direction. That's putting yourself in position to get three bodies in there of significance. You're looking at probably top 45, 3 players in the top 45. That's not bad. That's not bad. And so I would definitely that would put, that could get you an offensive lineman, defensive player, and shoot, you might even try to do the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase by bringing in Addison, his old receiver from college. So imagine that, Pickens and Addison on opposite sides. That would be a dynamic force. Then Pat Fryermuth down the middle. Let's see. Jared Devil's correct. It's way too early to think about the draft. And it's just way too early to think about if Kenny's not the guy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We got to give him the rest of this year first. But I think he's going to turn it around, guys. I have this feeling, I was down on him after the game. I'll be honest with y'all. I was down on him for a couple of days, went back, watched the game, saw some things that he's missing, but, just like you got to put it in right perspective. He's a young guy. It's his first year. I know how old he is, and I know how much experience he has, but he really doesn't have that experience going up against quality NFL defenses. And so, he's going to struggle a little bit, and perhaps he can turn it around. Way to put everybody back in perspective, Jared Devil. Let's see. Brian Michaels, now the season is over. That's funny. Too many Browns fans have entered the chat. Oh, Spencer Rattler. I'm not a fan of that guy. I know who he is. Let's see. David Jr. says Kenny will be great. Just got to give him time. I'm not opposed to that. I think you're right. I think that. Hold on, I think I messed one real quick. If I see a guy they pass over, I learn to accept. They know better than I. That's true. That is very true. And without that said, it's still the halfway point. I don't think anybody had more wins than losses at this point. I think that everybody, when they looked at the season before the season started, they saw this as the second half being where they potentially can get it together and rally up some wins. And I really think the Steelers can do it. I really do. I really do. But I want to remind you guys, Michael Bain, he unfortunately he never accepted the tickets to the Steelers versus Vegas Raiders game. So we're going to be giving them away again. So we're going to be doing that contest next Saturday. All right. We're going to be doing a live on Saturday. It'll be the day before the Saints game. We're going to be doing it Saturday night. So make sure you ring that notification bell so that you're aware, because you're going to have to be present on the live chat to win them. So I'm not going to do this where we're going to wait a day and maybe we have a winner. We don't. We're going to have a winner this time. And so you'll have to be present in the live chat on the YouTube side only. And so there's 2 ways you can enter, guys. There's 2 ways. We're going to be doing, you can enter in 2 ways. You can enter just by being a subscriber by State of the Steelers and being present on the live chat next Saturday. Another way also is to be a subscriber on my other show. It's called The Drunk Turkey Show. We'll be doing a dual casting time, and the StreamYard tool will pick one commenter from the live chat that's together. And so you have potentially 2 ways to enter, being a subscriber here and one on my other show. And next Saturday night, we'll be giving away those tickets. Basically, what you're going to have to do is just enter in the code word into the live chat on both of them, if you guys want. And the StreamYard tool will select a person at random that entered the code word, and it'll do it off of the live chat. So you'll have to be present. If you don't claim them at the time when we call it out, then it'll go to the next person. We'll give you probably about 5 minutes to say it's me, maybe a little bit less than that. 5 minutes is a long time. We'll give you a full minute to say that you're in the live chat, and maybe 2. And after that, then, at the 5-minute mark, we're just going to call out another person. So hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. That way you're notified of not just that contest, but all the other, content that we put out. We try to do something daily, whether it's a daily segment or a weekly live. But yeah, and I'll go through a couple more comments and then we'll cut it short here. So context is important, just like optimistic views aren't proper context. So I'm speaking from seeing we have to exclude all the things a quarterback should do because that's what's giving optimistic views. Okay. Mr. Malibu says, I believe he is showing his ceiling. Man, to see a ceiling after 4 games, that's kind of hard though, bro. I'll be honest with you. Here's my thing. Why hasn't he won 1 game at the helm? And if I win, I'd give my tickets away just because of the season. I'll only be on the live chat that day. Understood. No, you don't have to put in the code word. If you don't enter the code word, you won't be entered into the contest. Now, as far as this whole ceiling and things of that nature, it's kind of hard to say that after 4 games. We need to give him the full year, man. We really do. It's not fair to him to say, hey, one performance is this way or that way. Because then, he could turn it around, have 2-3 performances that are amazing and then fall in the dirt. I mean, based on, a small sample size, Baker Mayfield's the worst quarterback and the best quarterback ever. If you look at just small sample sizes of their career. And so this one is too small of a sample size to say that. There is growing pains no matter where at every aspect, because, you can't learn until you experience some of these things, and experience is the only tool there. And David Jr., the code word, it'll be, we haven't figured that out yet, but on the live chat, I'll be putting it out there in the live chat at the bottom, like right here where you see where it says like, subscribe. We'll be putting it there, and then we'll also be announcing it throughout the show, like, hey, this is the code word, enter it in. Now, you're going to have to be a subscriber on YouTube before that show, because I'm going to put, no, you know what? We're going to put a thing where you only subscribers can comment. So you're going to have to be on there and only be a subscriber, and you're not going to be able to comment for 10 minutes. So it'd behoove of you guys to subscribe before the show. Let's see. Should the Steelers ask Russia to help them? That was funny. It's some tough times, guys. It's a dark moment right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think the light's at the end of the tunnel. I don't think the Steelers are going to go, very far this year, but the moves that they're making now, you look at the trade for Will Jackson, you look at the acquisition of draft picks for Chase Claypool. You're looking at probably drafting up there in top 10, top 12 of the draft this year. You're probably going to get some good quality picks out of that. You're going to get a good quality team and a good building block, good foundation for a team for the future. But, right now this defense is on the way up, and there's a possibility that, they turn it around sooner than we think, but only time will tell. I appreciate everybody in the live chat. I appreciate everybody who came in today. Thank you so much. Thank you for commenting. If you guys would just like, comment, and subscribe, and tell your friends, if you have any friends or family members that are Steeler fans, they want to go to see the game, let them know we're giving away some tickets. Have them subscribe to us as well. But I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with that. It's a bye week. It's going to be a good weekend. Me and the wife find out what we're having this weekend. We have a little gender reveal party on Saturday. So I probably won't be coming on the show live this Saturday, but I will be next Saturday to give away those tickets. With that being said, guys, y'all have a great night and a great week. Peace.